When we talk about the dark and light feminine, I think a lot of people confuse these archetypes and they think that just because you wear dark colors, you invoke strong sexual energy, you stand in your feminine power, they perceive you to be too much or bad. I'll give you an example of this. Megan Thee Stallion, Nicki Minaj, even Beyonce and Rihanna. Now, Beyonce, I love as a great example because she's actually been both archetypes, which is true balance. Once again, when it comes to dark feminine energy, many times she will show up with the no nonsense attitude. She has very strong boundaries. And the thing about her is she's just as divine. Why? Because standing in your authenticity, not conforming to the world's rules and the things that they consider as taboo, is actually very luminous. Think about it. You might judge somebody because they have a bunch of tattoos, because they dress a certain way. Maybe she dresses more seductive. Maybe she's not afraid to show her body. This is powerful. This is light. This is sovereignty. So don't confuse these terms of dark and light feminine thinking that they're different. They're one and the same. They are two sides of one coin. Why? Because when it comes to the light feminine, which you might associate more to bubbly, light colors, pastels, pinks, just because she wears pink or white or light colors, just because she's always bubbly, doesn't mean that she doesn't hold dark feminine energy. Dark feminine energy is your Lilith energy. That's the energy that doesn't give a F. That's the energy that will come and break the rules. That's the Rihanna. But understand, Rihanna is an inspiration to women. Why? Because she isn't afraid to stand in her power. She isn't afraid to break the rules, which is why the universe has blessed her. See, many of you might deem certain people as unworthy, but be careful who you judge, because God has a purpose for all of us. And it is very important for the dark feminine to be expressed just as much as the light feminine, because really and truly, they're one and the same. They're one and the same. So just because you might exude more dark feminine energy does not mean that you don't also hold light feminine energy. This is where people get it mixed up. This is where people get it twisted. They think that the wild woman archetype is separate, but she is a part of the archetypes. All of them are necessary in order to be whole. So understand that when we talk about dark feminine energy, it's not talking about being cold. It's not talking about being the B word. It's not talking about being rude. Just because a woman embraces her sexual energy, maybe she dresses a little provocatively for your taste. Maybe she shows a little cleavage. It does not mean that she is for the streets. The same way that just because a woman wears a turtleneck or a non-uniform, it doesn't mean that she's not for the streets. You have to stop judging a book by its cover. You have to start looking at the fruit that the tree is bearing. I'm not talking about women who walk around and siphon men's energy. Just because a woman likes to make herself up, just because she likes to dress provocatively, it doesn't mean that she's always doing that for you. Get out your ego. Because a woman that loves herself, worships herself, she's going to dress up for herself. She's going to look sexy because it makes her feel good. She's going to take care of her body because it makes her feel good. Now, a woman who's karmic, yeah, she's going to do these things just to trap men. There is a difference. Know the difference. You just have to be strong enough and confident enough for her. Because she's going to break a lot of rules. She might even make you feel a little uncomfortable because we've been living in such a patriarchal society. But it was never about being this good girl. Because, see, being a good girl just means that you follow the rules. And many times that you're just being controlled. Just because you go to church. Once you realize that rules were created by humans, manufactured programs, and that stepping outside the box, daring to be different, is powerful, then you will understand what I'm saying. Because many of the women who are deemed as the dark feminine, once again, I gave you a few examples. Nicki Minaj, for instance. Many people might have misjudged her. But I see with the spiritual eye. I see Lilith energy all over her. A woman that says, you cannot confine me. You cannot define me. I'm going to be exactly who I want to be. I don't need to dress the way that you want me to dress. I don't need to walk or talk the way that you want me to walk or talk. I do not need to wear my hair the way that you want me to wear my hair. I do what I want to do. I am the mold. But it takes power, which is why most women first start out in the light feminine, because it's more acceptable in society. But once you start emerging as the dark feminine, this is when you may get a lot of backlash, because people don't know how to take you. Especially if you have a man that's not in his divine masculine energy, he's going to think that you're too much to handle. Let him. You don't want somebody like that anyway. Because understand, a goddess is not confined to just light or dark. She is all of it. You never know what you're going to get. And that should excite you. But the divine feminine is not light or dark. She is both. She is all. She is Mary Magdalene, and she is also Lilith. It is the world that separated her into two energies. She is one, which makes the whole. And when you can embrace both sides of yourself, that is when you become the most powerful. Me personally, this is why I love Rihanna. I feel like if you're daring enough to do something that society deems as taboo or rebellious, with the exception of hurting anyone. I'm not talking about doing things that hurt other people. I'm talking about you just expressing your authenticity. I think that that is the most powerful thing that you can do. Dare to be different. Why is everybody trying to be the same anyway? We're supposed to be different expressions of God. Understand that most people are judging things that trigger them. because they're afraid it's going to shake up their way of life. They're afraid it's going to shake up their way of being, their thoughts, and their own beliefs. It has nothing to do with you, which is why you should let them be triggered. I'll give you a good example. I was out last weekend, and I had on my dress. I was looking sexy. I walked with confidence, okay? And I could see like these women, it's like they would get intimidated. They would like pull their man a little closer. I don't want your man. That's number one. But why were they intimidated? Because they felt like I would shake up their world. Like he would somehow run off with me. That he would somehow run off with me or something. That because I was beautiful, it would somehow make her less attractive to him. People are triggered by things that threaten to shake up their world, to shake up their beliefs, because they're not ready to change. That doesn't mean you should dim your light. That doesn't mean that you should shrink yourself. Let them deal with their own demons. And if you irritate them, good. Good, because that's the only way that they're ever going to change.